All right, guys. So thank you all for coming today. As you might know, we'll be going over how to create a chatbot in Python that can basically serve as your personal assistant. It can answer your homework questions, help you with your personal finances, or even give you nutritional facts and suggestions. And the possibilities are seemingly endless. So before jumping straight into the code, I want to give you guys a short PowerPoint where I go over what the chatbot actually does and basically screenshots of text I've sent to the chatbot and how it responds to certain commands. All right, so as you can see, the chatbot by the middle screenshot there, it can solve calculus problems or any math problem, in fact, and it can tell you salaries of different professions. And this one I found especially helpful. It can calculate how much to tip based on the total bill amount and based on the tip percentage and the amount of people. So if you have a bill that's $84 and you have a 15% tip split between three people, it can actually tell you how much each person has to tip. And as you can see, it can tell you like how much 16 gallons of gas is in New York City, and it can even tell you like a joke. And so basically, this chatbot, it works with three different things: Twilio, Wikipedia API, and Wolfram Alpha's API. And these are Twilio is basically what allows the bot to send and receive your text and process the commands you sent to it. It is responsible for delivering the actual text messages to your phone number. The way the bot actually formulates a reply to your commands is through the Wikipedia and Wolfram Alpha APIs. They're responsible for processing the command and figuring out how to respond to it. So to understand all of this, it's important for you guys to understand what an API actually is. So API basically stands for Application Programming Interface, and it's basically a middleman that communicates between two applications. Think of it as a menu in a restaurant. The menu has everything you can order from the restaurant, and when you place an order, the chefs do the work to prepare your food and have it delivered to you. You don't need to know how the restaurant prepares the food, and you don't really need to. This is exactly the same ideology with the chatbot, because the Wikipedia and Wolfram Alpha APIs, they do the work for us. So Wolfram Alpha's API, it allows us to communicate with the servers, which are going to handle how to solve a math problem or compute the answer to any question you give it. And Wikipedia also processes your request, and its servers computes a response for us. We don't have to worry about how they actually formulate the response to the commands because the servers are handling it for us. So when I type in those commands, what's happening is that when I type in Wolfram integral of x to the fifth minus 7x to the fourth, what's happening is that it's communicating to Wolfram Alpha's servers, and their servers are responsible for handling how to compute the solution for that problem. And so if you guys don't know what Wolfram Alpha is, it's basically just a search engine which can answer questions about basically anything. It's basically like Siri on iPhone, but much smarter. As you can see, it can answer questions about math, science, technology, society, and culture, everyday life. And if you guys want to see the full range of commands you can use for the chatbot, you can visit their website and check it out. So now we can get started with the code. For you guys to actually run this program, there's a lot of stuff you have to install beforehand, just like the last meeting with web scraping. So I'm actually going to show you guys how to get everything running after we go through the code. But yeah, to get started, the first thing you have to do is import a library called Flask, which is basically a Python web framework that makes it easy for you to get started with as a beginner to get a simple app running. And Pinterest and LinkedIn actually use Flask for the web apps, and it's just something that makes it really easy to build something and get it up and running. So we have to actually do from Flask, import Flask and request. Now next we have to import the Wikipedia API by doing import Wikipedia. And to import the Wolfram Alpha API, we do import Wolfram Alpha. All right, so that's how you import those two APIs, and then the last one is Twilio's API. And if you guys remember, Twilio is responsible for actually sending the text messages to your number, and they're basically responsible for handling everything involved with that. So twiml.messaging response, import message and messaging. And I'm going to be going over what these two things mean once we get up to that part in the code. So the next thing we have here, after I'm done with all the code, I'm going to explain this line here. To actually access the Wolfram Alpha API, you have to sign up on their website to get access to the API, and they're going to give you a code that you can use, that you can enter in your actual Python code, and it allows you to access their API. Now, I don't want you guys to gain access to my code because that's kind of a private thing, so I'm going to be opening a text file where I have my code saved. So this is just so I don't expose my code to everyone here. It's kind of like a password for my Wolfram Alpha. So this is just me getting the code here. You guys don't have to worry about this. Text txt, and then reading from the top. All right. So next thing we have to do is create our actual Flask app. Now the way we do that is pretty simple. App equals Flask underscore name, and it's just like that. So what this does is it sets up Flask and it connects our code to our local host, which will later be connected through something else called ngrok, which I'll be going over once we get to that part. So the next thing you have to do is type in @app.route, and then it's a slash here, and then methods equals post. Now what this is, it's important for you guys to understand, is that the Twilio API actually uses something called a webhook to notify an application when there's an incoming message. So whenever you send a message to the chatbot, a webhook is triggered through an HTTP post request. So every time we send a message, we trigger an HTTP post request. Now the SMS function that I'm about to write, noted by this right here in Python, this means I'm defining a function called SMS. What this is about to do is I'm about to tell the chatbot app how we should respond when the app detects a post request. So this method here is basically responsible for telling the server what to do when it detects you send a message to the system. So what we have here is just a bunch of lines here that are pretty simple. So we want to get the message that you send to the chatbot by just doing this. Message body equals request dot form body. Now what this is doing is just getting you the text from the message that is sent. Now that we have the text that you sent to the chatbot, we want to figure out how to respond to it. Now the first thing to do in order to achieve that is by first creating a response object from Twilio's API, which basically tells Twilio how we can respond to that message. So the next thing we have to do is make a variable named response, and then make it equal to messaging response. Now again, basically what this is doing is creating a Twilio message response object, which is responsible for sending a reply back to your text based on what you sent to it. So after that, all we have to do is make a variable named reply text, which represents how the chatbot is going to reply to your message, and make it equal to another function that we have to make called getReply, and then you pass in the parameters the message body. So what you send to ChatBot is gonna call this function getReply, and it's gonna formulate an answer or a response to your command. So after that, all we have to do response resp.message reply text. So all this is doing, all this line is doing is it's texting back your number. So but at the end of the meeting, I'm actually gonna post a number in the chat that you guys can all text, and that's basically the chatbot. So you can ask it any command you want, and I'm gonna open up for everyone to actually text. So you guys will be able to see how this runs firsthand. So after that, all we have to do is return str. And again, this code isn't that important for you guys to understand because it's kind of given to you. The code I'm about to write, which is a getReply method, that contains the actual logic that you guys should understand. If you guys search up like how to make an SMS chatbot with Flask, Twilio, and Wolfram Alpha, it's basically gonna give you this text, and just like basically just know that it works, and this is a simple understanding of how it works. Apart from that, this is basic Python code to get your code to run. So if name equals underscore main, and then I just want to run the app like this. So all this is doing is that when you run the code through terminal, this will allow Flask to work, and then in whole, it allows your whole app to run. So now we're finished with this part of the code. The next part is how to actually get a reply to what you texted the chatbot. So now what we have to do is create the getReply function, which again, I wrote right here. I want to get a reply to the message that we send to the chatbot. And the way we do that is by first defining the getReply function right here. So def getReply. And then as a parameter, we pass in the message that you sent to it. Now, so getReply, and then as a parameter, you pass it the message that you sent. So now what we want to do is that now we have the message, and right now what we want to do is just set all the characters in the message to be lowercase. Now this is just to normalize the message and to make sure the program works for any kind of message you send to it. So by making all the characters lowercase, we know for sure that there will be no capital letters, and we can easily search for keywords in the message. And you guys will know what I mean in just a little bit. But the way you make all the characters lowercase in the message is just by doing this. So message equals message dot lower. And if I print out the message here, I'm actually gonna show you guys what firsthand what this does. So let's say I'm just gonna call the getReply method here and show you guys what it does. So let's say I pass in Sata in all caps. So what it'll do is actually print in Sata in all lowercase. So now what we want to do is actually, so because there's so many different possibilities of things you can enter to the chatbot, what we want to do is get rid of all the white space in the message, meaning getting rid of any unnecessary spaces in the message. So all we have to do that is do .strip, and that just makes our the message easier to handle. And so let's say I had something like, I don't know, this. It would just remove the white spaces. So the way I can just kind of show that, I think it's like this. But yeah, that's all you guys really have to know about that. So then after doing that, what we want to do is make a variable named answer, which is going to store the text that we send back to the user. And so then after that, we have to see. So now if you guys saw back in the PowerPoint, there's actually two different possibilities of commands you can enter to the chatbot, which is Wolfram, meaning you're going to be using Wolfram Alpha's API to process that request, or Wikipedia. So the way we can check if the user entered in Wolfram into the message is just by doing this. So if Wolfram in message, so this is if the user enters in Wolfram in the message, just like how it says in the if statement. So now what we want to do is actually get rid of the word Wolfram in message, because we want to get rid of any unnecessary text in the command the user sent and pass it to the Wolfram Alpha API so it knows what to send back. So the way we get rid of the word Wolfram in message is just by doing this. So message equals message dot replace Wolfram, and then we want to replace Wolfram with just empty quotes. So for example, if I run the code here and do Wolfram, what is I don't know, machine learning, it gets rid of. Now if I actually return message here, you guys will see. So what it's doing is that it replaced Wolfram. It just basically deleted Wolfram from the message you sent to the chatbot. Now all of this will make sense in just a little bit, but now we're getting into the actual basically interesting code, you can say. So after that, what we have to do is create a Wolfram Alpha client, which is going to be responsible for connecting us to the Wolfram Alpha API. So client equals Wolfram Alpha dot client, and then we pass it the app ID of the Wolfram Alpha API. Now again, like I said, I'll explain to you guys how to get this app ID from Wolfram Alpha. I don't want to show my personal one because I don't want you guys to kind of like use it. So this is basically initializing the Wolfram Alpha API. It's allowing us to connect to a server, and what we can do after this is actually send it a query. So send it a request to answer whatever we enter in. So the way we can do that is by doing rest equals client dot query, and then we pass in the message that we sent to it. So what this line is doing is telling Wolfram, is basically sending this request to Wolfram Alpha's servers and telling it, can you compute the answer for this for me? So is Wolfram Alpha servers, they're responsible for computing a response to that command, and then you want to store that answer in our answer variable. So then once the request is processed and we have an answer from Wolfram Alpha, we want to store it in the answer variable because that's what is going to be sent back to the user. So the way we do that is by doing answer equals next rest.results.text. Now, when testing this chatbot, I encountered a lot of errors with there's certain commands that Wolfram Alpha doesn't know how to reply to, and in order to and then when it doesn't know how to respond, it actually crashes the program. So easy way to prevent it from crashing is by a try and accept catch. So what I mean by that is to avoid the program from crashing, you want it to write this. So try answer equals that, and then if it doesn't know how to process the request, we want to just make the answer sorry, there was an error processing your request. Error processing your request. So this is basically, so if you send it a command that it doesn't know how to respond to, it's going to send you this, sorry, there was an error processing your request. And basically after that, you can just type in another command, and if it knows how to process it, it'll send you back whatever the result is. So that's basically it for this if statement here. If you enter in Wolfram in the message, it'll know how to answer it now. Now, since I also use the Wikipedia API, you have to check if wiki is in message, because that's the other command that you can enter in. So else elif wiki in message. So if the user wants to use the Wikipedia API, it's basically the same thing. So we want to get rid of the word wiki in message. So message equals message dot replace wiki and replace it with empty quotes. So it gets rid of the word wiki in message. And then just like how we surrounded the answer with try and accept here, we want to do that the same way with the Wikipedia API, because again, it doesn't know how to respond to every command. So in order to prevent it from crashing, we want to surround it with try and accept. So all we have to do is try answer equals Wikipedia the summary. Now, if you guys want to challenge yourself or improve upon this program, you can use a different function from the Wikipedia API. I'm just using a summary function, and all this is doing is sending a request to Wikipedia servers, and I wanted to give me back 5 sentences, a 5-sentence summary of whatever you send it. So the way you would use the Wikipedia command is by doing like wiki and then something you want to know more about. So if I want to do like wiki artificial intelligence or machine learning, it's going to send me back a 5-sentence summary about that topic. So I did try, now I have to do accept. So if there was an error processing that request, I want the answer to be a request was not found using Wikipedia. Another thing that another problem I encountered with when using the wiki command is that sometimes you have to be pretty specific with what you want to know more about, because if you answer in like wiki and then someone famous who has a kind of common name, that's ambiguous. So you have to be more specific about who you're talking about. For example, like I entered in like wiki LeBron James, and that actually gave me an error. I'm not sure why, but I had to type in LeBron James basketball, and it told me about the actual LeBron James in the NBA. So this is just something to keep in mind. So be more specific. So that's basically it for this elif statement. So now we can handle when we send requests from Wolfram Alpha and Wikipedia. Now, if you guys want to challenge yourself or edit this program or whatever, you can use different APIs to achieve whatever you want. For example, you can enter in a weather API to tell you like what the weather is in a city somewhere else in the world or something, and then send a request to their API and have a keyword to process their command. But right now I'm sticking with these 2 APIs. So if the user doesn't enter in Wolfram or Wiki in the message, I want to just tell the user to enter in one of those commands. So I just want to have like a welcome message. So if you just type in like hello to the chatbot, it'll text you back this message. So I want it to be like hi. And then by doing \n, it's just by skipping a line in the text. So I wanted to enter these are the commands you may use. And then I want to skip a line again, and then I want to specify Wolfram, like you can type in Wolfram, and then in quotes your command request, and then I want to type in \n again, because to process the wiki command you just do wiki and then your request. Now this is just something I wanted to add to make sure you guys understand how to actually work the chatbot. But that's basically it right there. Now, other than that, we're actually finished with the code after this. So yeah, we're actually done with the code right here. So as you can see, it's really not that much code that we had to go through. Um, I'm actually gonna run the program through. I'm not gonna run the program here just because I might encounter some errors. But right now, what you guys can do, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a bit. I'm gonna run the chatbot, and you guys can actually text a number to see how it works. So let me get it up and running right now. And if someone can send like I don't know, DeJonte or someone else, if you can send the phone number, they can text in a bit. DeJonte actually has a PowerPoint on Git, which is really important for everyone to understand because that's how you like when you guys go work in the industry as a software engineer or um, anything that's CS related, you're going to be using something called Git and GitHub. And I know a lot of you might have those two things confused together, but basically, Deontay is gonna tell you guys about that. And then after he's done, I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to run the code.
What is Git? So Git basically is a version control system for managing like files or applications that you're working on. And really what it does is it keeps a pretty detailed history of what edits you've made in your code over time. So that way you can check back, or if you made a small edit that may have caused your application to be unstable, you can go back and then just change it. So this is really valuable when you work in the industry, like Faizan said, because it allows you to go back and forth between different iterations of your code. So Git works through allowing you to create different branches in your code. So you'll have a master branch, which will be the main source code. And then from that master branch, you can create many different branches that lets you do, fix bugs, or you could just add a feature if you're working on an application. And then later on, when you've got that stable, you can merge that back into the master branch of your code. So this really helps with industry development because different teams of software developers, they can collaborate on the same master branch file without, you know, stepping on each other's toes or having to worry about someone made an edit on code that you're working on and it doesn't do what you want it to do. So that's why Git's very valuable. So I'm just going to show you guys a couple screenshots of important Git commands that you can run from the command line. And the first one is git initialize or init, and it will let you initialize an empty Git repository folder, which will store your files inside of. So right here, you can see from a command line, it'll show you where. So this one would be stored in users, and you can obviously put it wherever you want. So next would be creating a git ignore file. And this is kind of similar to something Faizan was bringing up earlier. You can hide sensitive information such as API keys, which for Faizan before that was like his that API for the phone number. And if you don't want people getting that, or if you're making a file that has people's addresses or sensitive information that you don't want someone being able to see, like just if it's an open source, because Git is used for open source sharing of code. And if you don't want people to be able to access that information, you'll use a git ignore file, which will filter out anything that matches the exceptions that you want. And you can basically put whatever exceptions for the types of information that you want filtered out. So commits are a snapshot of your code at a certain point in time where you're working on it. So as a good programming practice, you should try to make many small commits, and that way you can really trace back if you have an error with your code, you can trace back where that could have been. And it also helps to avoid like massive losses of data. And it makes it easier for people to follow if you're sharing your code with a team and they want to see progress or what small changes you've made that are like applying to the application, you can see that. So you can stage, which just is really including a file into a commit. And then the commit allows you to actually write a description of what changes you made so that it's almost like making a comment in your code. So you can really show people, like in this iteration, I added this feature and it makes it very easy to follow. So this would just be an example of the changes to be committed. So you select the file that you want the commit, and then in there, those the darker blue lines on the left side, those are where you would put the lines describing what your commit is. So an important feature of Git is being able to switch branches. And like I said earlier, this is for version control of your code. And so that allows you to make edits and then put that back in the master branch. So a few commands you should know is git checkout command, which will create a new branch for you to put files in. And then if you want to use that same command, but let's say you haven't created that branch already, you can do it in one command and create a new branch and name it in the same instance. So the merge branch is the super important one because when you create all those branches and you make your edits, you want to be able to put that back in your master branch and apply it. So really the syntax for that would be git merge and then name of whatever branch you want merged. And this will bring it to the master branch. And you can see in this example here, right, the second block of code, it says git merge next 5 even odd. So that would take the file 5 even odd and branch it or merge it to the master branch. So that's the end of the slideshow, but I wanted to show you guys how to get Faizan's code onto your computer by just using git command.
Yeah.
So
Guys, if you want to download the code, just follow the link I'm sending in the chat. So go on that link, and there I have a step-by-step tutorial or a process on what you have to install, how to run it, and so DeJonte is going to show you how to actually get the code, like how to download the files on your computer and how you can edit the code from there.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Faizan. So you're going to have your terminal up. So I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to have my terminal up. And you're going to go to that link that Faizan shared. And you're going to go to this green button that says code. And you will just copy this to your clipboard, this link right here. Then you're going to go to your terminal and just type in git clone and then copy that link. And then it will clone the name of the file is SATA chatbot, and it'll just clone that into your files. And then for me, I can access that through my Finder, and then you'll have all that stuff. So
DeJonte, let me share my screen now. I'm gonna show them like how commits, why commits are so important. So as I was working on the code for this meeting, I made a lot of changes to, like, for example, this README file. Everything you see here is part of the README file. And if I go here, the great thing about GitHub is that you can see all the commits I made and all the changes I made for each commit. So if I go down here, if I go to like this right here, it shows you what I changed and how it looks with the change. So I just add a couple words here, so how the chat get instant answers to your questions with Python, Twilio, Wikipedia, and Wolfram Alpha. It shows you what I changed for that specific commit. Now, let's say you update your program, you committed something, you committed your code to GitHub, you pushed it onto GitHub, and then you type something and it messes up your whole program, and you don't know what it is. So what you can do is go back to that commit and just just copy the code and paste it again into your program, and your code will run fine again. You don't have to worry about losing any code or whatever because all of it is saved back here. So you can see here, like I have changes in my code there, and then this is just so the website I'm right on now is GitHub, and as you can see, DeJonte showed you how to get the code with Git. So that's the difference between those two. So Git is a version control software that allows you to push code onto GitHub, and GitHub is where you host all the files and everything that people can download. So that's basically it. If you guys like, you guys can follow the steps here to get everything installed and everything. Now, now I'm really this is really unfortunate. Like, you actually have to pay $20 minimum to upgrade your Twilio account, because what you have to do is purchase a phone number for you to use for the project. But I'm gonna have my chatbot running throughout the day, so you guys can text the number um, anytime today and then see how it works. And honestly, I think the $20 is really worth it. Like, I've had a lot of fun with this. It's really interesting to see like how it responds to different things. And if you guys have any questions about how to do something, just let me know. But yeah, that's basically it for the meeting.